Hello, I'm Stuart Craner, co-founder of Thinkers 50. Welcome to this new podcast in which we celebrate and learn from the leadership insights and experiences of some of the amazing leaders we have featured in our Leaders 50 listing of the world's most inspiring organizational leaders. I'm delighted that alongside me, I have Sanyin Shang. Sanyin is a CEO coach, advisor to Google Ventures, and the executive director of Duke University's Coach K Center on Leadership and Ethics at its Fuqua School of Business. Most importantly, of course, Sanyin is a Thinkers 50 award winner and one of the world's 50 most important management thinkers. Sanyin, great to see you.
Oh, it's great to be here with you, Stuart. And Stuart, because he's British, he's also very humble. So let me just say a few words about my wonderful co-host, Stuart Craner. Stuart, since 2001, with Des Dear Love, have been curating the world's list of top management thinkers because the idea is great management thinking can really change the world for the better. And with Leaders 50, great management thinking plus great leaders who use great management thinking and who are humanizing leaders can really change society and create the world that we all want to be a part of. And Stuart, for the past couple of decades, not only have an astute eye for great ideas, but he's also one of my favorite go-to thought partners for thinking through what are the trends, where are things going, and what's happening. So, Stuart, it is going to be such a fun conversation with you and our special guest, Ndidi Okonkwo Nwuneli. So, Ndidi is a leader in social innovation, agriculture, and entrepreneurship, and she has a strong focus on African development. So she is the CEO of One Campaign, which she took on this role in 2024. But this is not her first time go around for such an important role. For the last 25 years, she has been championing sustainable initiatives that address critical challenges in food security, youth development, and economic empowerment. Notice how three of those really go together: food security, youth development, and economic empowerment. So, born in Nigeria, she began her career as a management consultant at McKinsey and Company before returning to Nigeria to pursue social impact. There, she founded the FATE Foundation to support aspiring entrepreneurs and later launched Leap Africa, an organization dedicated to inspiring young African leaders. So, Ndidi, welcome. It's clear you have an eye towards the future. So, Stuart, I'm going to bounce it back to you for the first question.
While you're doing research for the Leaders 50, we talked to Linda Hill from Harvard Business School, who's a brilliant person and knows Ndidi, and she recommended her for the Leaders 50. And Linda gave us a great quote. Ndidi is a force of nature. Her life is a lesson in what great leadership is all about. She builds communities of leaders with the talent and tenacity to co-create a future in which no one is marginalized. What a fantastic endorsement from a great person like Linda. Looking back at your career, Ndidi, I mean, we've only got that was a few edited highlights. We didn't mention the Harvard MBA and a host of other things. Is there a golden thread which runs through your career as you look back at it? How do you make sense of it? Is there a plan or a rationale behind it?
Thank you so much, Stuart and Sanya, and thank you to Linda for that wonderful endorsement. Linda is a mentor and a friend, and I met her when I was only 22 and started Harvard Business School, and she is the true force. And I think one of the key threads in my life is mentors like Linda, who keep inspiring, opening doors, providing advice and encouragement. And I've been blessed with the groups I call angels on assignment, strategic individuals who God has placed in my life throughout my journey. But I think a biggest thread beyond that is faith. So I have a strong and abiding faith that has kind of propelled the work and life I have lived. My journey has not been very linear. I think many of us start off our careers in business thinking by 25, I would have done this, 30, I would have done this. But really, for me, it's been one of divine grace and alignment, and really focused on making God proud. So that's really the main thread. And then a desire to transform and be part of those who transform the African continent by creating jobs, driving inclusive growth, and closing barriers between those who have resources and those who do not. And so that has propelled me really a mission-driven life that's bigger than myself, and one in service to my community and in service to my continent and in service to my faith.
Wow, there were several threads that we heard in your answer that are so beautiful. So, one, there's that quote that you want to know the future, go create the future, right? And to create the future, leadership is about taking us on a trajectory different than the one that currently is. And so it's a different type of future than the current status quo. And what you said there's your faith. So there's a trusting in whether people call it serendipity or God's hand on your shoulders. And also your shout out to those who helped you along the way. The faith and the mentorship plus service to society. It has to be in service of something. So much of your career is this nonlinear. So as you're making this determination with those three pieces in mind, how do you trust your gut to say, this is not the calculated, this is kind of counterintuitive, right? But let's do this. And how has that worked out?
Yes, I remember when I was at Harvard Business School, I co-founded the Africa Business Conference, which now is probably the largest, biggest student-run conference in the US. When we were starting it, my mantra at the time was an African proverb that said, do not follow the path, go where there is no path and leave a trail. And I think that was a very bold vision at the time, because my conviction was that there were so many opportunities that were untapped and so many gaps that we needed to fill in the ecosystem. And that's why I founded Leap Africa. I'm not the founder of Fate Foundation. Actually, I'm the pioneer executive director, but Fate was the first nonprofit focused on enterprise development in Nigeria, which was started in 2000. And I was 25 years old, tapped to come back to Nigeria to help start Fate. And we did the first incubation center. Then incubation centers were still new in many of our contexts. We really were on a mission to help young, unemployed, amazing talent start and grow businesses that will employ themselves and others. And then with Leap Africa, the focus was we have a leadership vacuum. With many years of military dictatorship in many countries across the continent, how do we inspire and galvanize the next generation of leaders who are dynamic, who have integrity, and who believe in transformative servant leadership when there are very few examples that they can look to, at least in the political context? And so that birthed Leap Africa. And today Leap works in 8 African countries, has reached millions of young people. And it was just taking a risk, learning from others, and then convincing a strong board to come alongside me and mission-driven high achievers. And I think those 2 early experiences were very useful because I got to build my leadership muscle, learn a lot from mistakes along the way, lean on very competent and capable people who served on the boards and who were my mentors, and then galvanize a group of funders to start those organizations at 25 and 28 and to play that critical role. And those 2 organizations are existing today and thriving. Fate just celebrated its 25th anniversary. I'm just so proud to have been a small part of those stories. But that propelled me with the confidence that I could take on new territory. And ag and food is even tougher in a very difficult climate change environment. But those type of early journeys, I think, and the ability to learn and grow from them and prove yourself then allows the next step to be a little easier along the way.
But can you tell us a little bit, Ndidi, about your early years? Because your parents were professors in pharmacology and history, which must have led to some interesting conversations over the dinner table, pharmacology and history. But you were born in Nigeria. One parent was American, the other Nigerian. So what about that formative period? And from that, when did you begin to think of yourself as a leader or think about service to society, mission-driven life, inclusive growth, all the issues you talked about?
Well, I think I was very fortunate to be born into this biracial family in southeastern Nigeria, a very beautiful, calm, quaint university campus, and to have the earliest role models, parents who had themselves committed to a life of service. They both went to Cornell University in the 60s, crossed racial lines and taught us the importance of humanity, love, and service. They made the sacrifice to come back to Nigeria in the early 70s, right after a brutal civil war that almost destroyed the country, and rebuild the next generation of academics, professionals in the heart of the Biafra territory, the former Biafra territory that had been so destroyed. So imagine growing up in that type of context. I was blessed to see their lives as role models, people who believed in integrity, believed in service, community, and modeled that every single day. I think also my birthing order is special because I'm the middle child of five, and I have two older, two younger. And most middle children, I don't know if either of you, Stuart and Tanya, are middle children, but most middle children are freedom fighters. You have two amazing older sisters, two amazing younger sisters. You have to build the confidence to stand on your own for the most part. And I think that was actually a gift. But my two siblings who are ahead of me were exceptional, in terms of school, extremely popular. And so I had to differentiate myself because teachers didn't even know my name. Like they used to call me their names. And I think that was actually really, when I look back, of course, it was tough at the time, but it was a great training for some of the lonely journeys that leaders go through because leadership is extremely lonely. And if you don't have a moral compass, strong backbone, and obviously a community of support, and my family and siblings, parents have been extremely supportive, and they're all alive today, which is an amazing grace of God. So they continue to be my biggest cheerleaders and champions. I think that was a gift. And then the third thing I'd say is seeing my country go through some very difficult times during the 80s and 90s, a period characterized by military rule, and seeing the tenacity of my parents was really critical. I mean, the decision to go to the United States for college was not one they took lightly as college professors. That was never the plan. They thought their university was great, the University of Nigeria, but our universities were closed during the military era. So I graduated. By going to the US, I graduated 3 years ahead of my peers who had stayed behind just because of the number of months that the universities were shut down by the military. Universities in many countries are a bedrock of opposition, and that's what we saw on a daily basis. You know, marches and call outs. And so the military shut us down. So my parents went for months without salaries. And I actually got to go to the US with just $250 in my pocket. And I stretched that money and never got anything else from my parents. In fact, I started sending money back home as soon as I could, just because they were living through such difficult periods. But then it makes you grateful, makes you appreciate, but also builds a fiber within you that unfortunately many of our kids are not experiencing, thankfully, because we obviously have lived through some of that.
Ndidi, what we've talked about, what we've heard from you is your origin story up
Yes.
to now. Here's the foundations. It's the faith. It's the mentors. It's seeing your parents being able to take these risks. It's being part of a family that is very strong, where you're the middle child, but I bet your older brothers, your older siblings and younger siblings, you guys are best friends, right? And tight. So you said leadership is lonely. And when you're an entrepreneur, sometimes you're going for something that maybe has a 5% chance of success, but it's worth doing because when you succeed, boom, it changes the world. How do you recruit others into that vision? Whether it's employees, let's like when you're 24, 25, starting with those organizations, or even now with one, like, oh, this is really hard, and they know how hard it is. How do you get them to come on board, even though it's hard?
So I think there are three things. First is being clear about what the mission is, what's the vision is. So the mission for me is very clear, statement of being. Why do we exist? The vision is, what does success look like? And this have to be compelling enough to attract people, the values that undergird that. I always tell people don't take it for granted. The first thing I do when I'm starting any new thing is clear mission and vision and values. And then make sure that it's not about you, right? So you create space for others to buy into that vision and to own that vision as if it was their own vision. And that's often hard for us as leaders. Very it's kind of holding on too tight. I think because I've become a serial social entrepreneur, I learned from day one that it's not about me. And that if people see themselves in the vision and you're able to articulate it clearly, that's awesome. Beyond that, those very oftentimes we feel they're soft. The other one is quick wins and early signs that that vision can be achieved. And oftentimes we take it for granted. I believe in very quick wins, even in my newest ventures or even being at one. Coming in with an idea, oftentimes people inside, especially if you're coming in as a leader in an existing organization, it's an amazing one. One is 21 years old. I'm not the founder of dynamic founders larger than life, like Bono, Bobby Shriver, and Jamie. But then you're coming in with a few ideas. So you have to, number one, be clear about what that vision is, then test it out with a few trusted voices, influential voices within the organization, but then also demonstrate some quick wins. And if we can demonstrate that, wow, there's some validity here, then you galvanize more mission-driven high achievers to come alongside you. And gradually it becomes the norm. And with everything I've done, I have to tell you, I've also reached out to organizations doing very similar work or tangential work to say, I'd love to partner with you. Because what you don't want is others to view you as a threat. But you want them to come alongside you and say, she was inclusive and this growth path. And even in the for-profit companies, Ace Foods, that's a food company, we reached out to everybody else doing spices and snacks and complementary foods to say, we're coming alongside you. If we can change the sector, we all win. And I'm someone who believes that part of the visioning, communication, galvanizing process is showing people that a bigger pie is better for everybody. Because in many of our contexts, it's like, if I win, you lose. No, let's grow the pie. Let's transform the world. And that's why the service orientation by which we transform lives is so critical. And that switch takes some time in many people who see the zero-sum game. But the more you prove that you're authentic, you're consistent, and you're a servant leader, the more you build trust.
Oh my gosh. There's also the connection in what you said earlier, that you build confidence by small wins for yourself. You're doing the same thing with your organization, and then through the collaboration with others. There's something in what you said. You said leadership is not about you. It's helping others to see how they can be part of the vision. I like to flip that around. How do you also help see the vision in your people? How do you discover the possibilities of what they can bring to the table? What are your rituals for doing that? Because it's about people.
It's all about people. I would say that there are different tactics, and what the biggest lesson I've learned is through parenting myself. I have to be humble. Parenting is the best and toughest teacher because you realize that your kids are so different, right? So different. And the way you engage with them either breaks them or brings out the best of them. And it's not one size fits all. And so the ability to kind of take the time to listen and to study, especially your senior leadership team, their strengths and weaknesses, their love language. And I have to bring in the spiritual component because love languages, meaning some people want affirmation. They need to hear they're great every single day. Giving feedback, constructive feedback might kill their spirit. But because I came from McKinsey, my early days as a leader, I was very free with constructive feedback. I gave it a lot. And I realized very quickly, not everybody's a McKinsey consultant. Not everybody can handle feedback. They view it as intense criticism in their context. And so being able to modify your approach and meet people where they are, quickly understand their strengths and weaknesses and what makes them shine, and then working alongside them. But it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of humility, and it takes a lot of a commitment to see your role as a people developer. I'm most proud of the organizations I've built and left in the hands of others, and the organizations continue to thrive. If I look at my career over the last 27 years, with every organization that I've established, seeing that without my direct involvement, those I left behind have lifted the organizations to the next level, that's the greatest joy of every leader. And it's really the greatest test of every leader. But it's really being able to find those individuals who can walk alongside that journey with you and who you can pass the baton to.
Looking at your story, Ndidi, what's striking is the kind of the bold and the brave decision points. I mean, your parents going to Nigeria, a time of great turmoil. I mean, there must have been a very courageous decision. You going to the States with $250, again, a courageous decision. But then you did Harvard Business School and McKinsey. I mean, you were on a classic career track. And then you chose to go back to Nigeria to make a difference. So I'm kind of intrigued by these bold and brave decisions and how premeditated they were. And say, going back to Nigeria, what were you thinking?
And that, Stuart, that's why I actually start off with the faith components as well, because we often in our space call it Godfidence, not confidence in myself, but confidence in the God who has sent me. But even the Nigerian journeys and many of the journeys I've had were not really as well defined and as orchestrated as you'd imagine. Like when I was in at Harvard or even at Wharton, I never sent my resume to any Nigerian company. I didn't imagine that in a military era or post-military era I would ever go back. And then I got an offer for a summer job, right? So I'm just saying that's one. The opportunity at Fate Foundation, I got a call from the founder, Fola Adiola, saying, I heard you're just amazing and that you are open to exploring opportunities in Nigeria, and I want to offer you this job. So with opportunities like that, and this is why oftentimes we say it's luck. I don't think it's luck. I think it's divine intervention. I think it is also doing I always tell people, this is a quote from Oprah, not my quote. Excellence and integrity have no hiding place. Like if you're really good and you're authentic and you're mission driven, people will find you because they want to be part of your story. You know, the truth is, in throughout my career, even this role at one, I did not apply for it. Someone nominated me and a headhunter called me. And that's the beauty of excellent work, but work rooted in integrity and being able to be clear that a lot of this is not your doing. My relationship with Linda Hill is another example. Like she didn't teach me a full class. She taught me a short class in orientation. But guess what? We stayed connected because I was attracted to the excellence in her and the vision in her, and she saw something in me. And I remember sitting in Nigeria and getting Linda's books. Every time she wrote a book, she would actually send a DHL package as a gift to me, her former student, for a short class. And I'd send her my books. And that inspired me to even write books. And so imagine the journey of really aligning your life and purpose with people who share those values and who you're drawn to. And I always tell leaders, who you surround yourself with matters. Be deliberate about the mentors, the collaborators, the fellow entrepreneurs, and the friendships that you work alongside, because they define the trajectory of your career and the trajectory of your impact in the world.
Is that how you became the CEO of the One campaign? Is it this
Yes.
similar sort of story? And we
So,
should.
one of the board members, actually, Helene Gale, sent my name to the headhunter, and Helene is another very inspirational leader. So you can never tell where your name is going to be mentioned. And if I think about all the board roles I've had the opportunity to you serve on, amazing global and local boards. It's also been nominations and exposure. So Stuart, truly, a lot of this is bold and brave, but a lot of it is rooted in the fact that they have been open doors, support, and mentors who have come alongside me. And I've also invested in sustaining those relationships because they feed my soul. And as I mentioned over and over again, it is a constantly changing world. I mean, leaders and CEOs are being pushed to unprecedented levels. I tell my friends, I don't know one CEO who's having fun right now in any organization in any part of the world, because we're constantly faced with unpredictable times, chaotic ecosystems, the geopolitics, the tariff wars, and we can go on and on. But what grounds you is the fact that you're called for such a time as this, that you surround yourself with individuals on your team, mentors and collaborators on your board, and a support network outside your organization that supports you. In my case, prays for me, encourages me, serves as critics and champions in my life, but also grounds me in the realities of the moment, but also of the future.
Ndidi, it's so clear that a thread that we're hearing is this idea of you with others, that life is with others, it's for others, but through others, being with others, working with others is how we create that meaningful, that beautiful, meaningful life, and how you choose, as you said, intentionally, who you collaborate with, who you are mentored by, who you mentor, isn't the usual calculus of status that we are taught as a society to go through, but it's around values. The people who can make your heart sing, who can make you see the world more brightly, and that's so beautiful. And from all of your answers, gosh, it is so clear why you belong on the Leaders 50 list. And I hope that those who are listening can actually feel that pop of inspiration from this conversation. So now we're going to the short answer portion of our podcast, which is we'll go through a few questions for 1 to 2 minute answers. And Stuart, to you for the first one.
What's your favorite U2 song? Because the one foundation for people who don't know, Bono, the lead singer of
There are
U2.
many really good ones. I think With or Without You, I like. I think it follows the theme, but it's also a beautiful song.
And I suppose the obvious next question is, what's it like working with somebody like Bono, with his reputation, his ability to open doors, his energy, and how involved is he? And he would need managing, wouldn't he?
He's a fantastic co-founder, visionary thinker, and one of the kindest, most humble people that I've ever met. He's just extremely authentic, and he delights in human relationships and building those deep relationships. And so I've learned so much from him, and it's been an honor working alongside him.
Oh my gosh, there's that intentionality again. Ndidi, earlier you said you made so many mistakes, and I'm sure you learned from those mistakes. Share with us a favorite failure and why.
I would say that one of my favorite I wouldn't say it's a favorite. One of the deepest failures that I've personally faced is one around knowing when to give too much power to younger people. So I co-founded, I founded an organization, and I think I gave power very early to some of the younger generation startups. And unfortunately, they made quite a few mistakes, which has led me to delve into this issue of intuitive judgment and linked to experience. And I know Thinkers 50 probably consider it, experience builds intuitive judgment. And when you give power to people who haven't built those experience muscles, they can make a really bad decision. So I'm learning how to think through those type of, how much power do you give a young person? Because in this particular case, in 2 cases, it almost destroyed the organizations.
But what's your superpower, Ndidi?
Authenticity is my superpower. I'm who I am consistently. And in some cases, people say it's too much, just tone it down. But that's who I am. So there's very, very few surprises when you work with me.
And I love that you mentioned, because my work is on superpowers, but it's not only, often people think about analytical superpowers or physical superpowers, but it's really the relational superpowers and the virtue superpowers. What you just named is a virtue superpower. And it's the reason why, as you said earlier, so many people come alongside of you. And I'll give you one, because my superpower is identifying other people's superpower. That's my favorite superpower. One of your superpowers that we've seen throughout all of this is the ability to frame what can be very trite, we become so used to them, trite ideas, and injecting them with new life because of your belief in what you're saying, coupled with your authenticity. So it's the authenticity, but it's also the expression of that in language. That's an not easily imitated superpower. So I wanted to give you that.
Thank you. That's a gift. Thank you so much.
Another question is, what advice will you give to those, especially Gen Z, because I know you work with many, entering the workforce today that can really make for a meaningful career?
I'd say two pieces of advice. One is learn to listen before you speak a lot more, because I think we're and learn to listen for the truth, because I think they're inundated with so much that we did not have, either the privilege or the challenges of addressing this alternative truth universe where, influencers directs a lot of what they do. And then the second is live your life with open hands. Open hands allow you to give and receive a lot more. Don't be so focused on your predetermined expectations of yourself or what life owes you. Be open to what life brings in to you. And that living with open hands, I like to explain, it's like just free yourself a bit from this. I must have achieved this by this age and done this by this. Life is amazing if you let yourself live and give yourself the opportunity to learn and grow alongside others.
Which book do you regularly reread, Ndidi?
The Bible.
You know,
I don't have many. Unfortunately, given my life, I'm now in the advocacy and policy landscape, so I'm reading constantly all the content that is produced and thrown at us. And at one, we develop a lot of great content. But I also have found that rereading and rooting myself in the Word of God feeds my soul and reminds me of all that I'm called to do. But they're also very practical industry examples in the Bible. So it's proved to be my go-to.
Oh gosh. Do you have a favorite actually I have to follow up on the Bible verse because we share a similar faith. So I have a beloved mentee who graduated from Duke, one of the best I've ever worked with. And he actually he took the bold risk and turned down a highly coveted job to go back to Nigeria to focus on agri-tech. And I remember his name is Uzo Belli. And I remember with Uzo, it was a really tough time. It was like during the pandemic, and we were talking because when someone is in your life, they're in your life forever, like you and Linda. And Uzo, he shared this quote with me. He said, it's from his mom: when God opens a door, no one can close it. When God closes a door, no one can open it. And it just takes away a lot of the calculated expectations, and you just sort of go with the flux and see what happens. It is counterintuitive, but it's known to work. So just wanted to share that back with you.
Well, thank you.
Do you have a favorite Nigerian dish?
I love okra soup. And okra, for those who don't know, is actually an Igbo word that the world has adopted. So I'm very proud of how African food has changed the world and contributed to the world. I had to drop that tidbit because a lot of what I do is changing narratives about Africa. And I think food is a wonderful way to build bridges. So okra soup is like gumbo from New Orleans, but 10 times better, spicy, media. And I love having it with plantains.
A final question, Ndidi. How do you feel about sharing a birthday with me?
Oh my gosh, I'm honored, Stuart.
You're the first person I've ever met or talked to who has the same birthday, 22nd of March. Very important day in the year, and obviously we've shared some fantastic occasions on the 22nd of March without knowing it.
I love it, Stuart. That makes this extra special. And it means you're not only someone I'm going to remember every March 22nd, but I'll start reaching out to you to say happy birthday.
Happy birthday in advance. Sanyin, a witty and pithy summary.
Oh gosh, here's some key takeaways from that I got from this. One, leadership is not about you. It's about others. It's about those whom you lead because you're helping to take them on a future trajectory, and they have to really believe in that vision. Two, it is about those whom you serve. Who are you for, and what are you for, and how are you intentionally going to put that into expression? And then leadership is lonely. So who are you going to bring along with you? And having that sense of bringing people along with you requires authenticity. You have to be who you are. And it's not about unlocking, it's not about just saying whatever you are thinking, but it's actually knowing what your values are and how are you going to live those values and how are you going to live those values. That's authenticity and also humility, because we're going to make mistakes along the way. But at the end of the day, when we think about leadership, this isn't about the most strategic leaders, even though you are one, or the greatest business leaders, you are one. This is really about creating a better future. What is leadership for? And how are we going to bring that into existence with others? How are we going to inspire? This is the 50 most inspiring leaders. So that's my takeaway. And Stuart, what's yours?
A few things I really like. The authenticity is always interesting. I worked on a book with a couple of London Business School professors called "Why Should Anyone Be Led by You?" Rob Goffey and Gareth Jones. And their thing about authenticity was that you should be yourself more with skill. So authenticity is be yourself, yes, but you've got to. The more element is you've got to be self-aware enough of your authenticity, and with skill, use it in a skillful and leaderly way. So I think authenticity is also interesting. And indeed, he talked about ecosystems and communities. And leadership is not a solo activity, never has been. But we've been misled and misguided to believe it is a solo activity. The ecosystems indeed is created around herself and being involved with are kind of instrumental to her career. So I think those are really, and the thing about bold decisions as well is really fantastic. So indeed, we really feel privileged to have shared something of your story today, and I'm sure people will check out your work and the work of the One Foundation, and even re-listen to some U2 albums for inspiration. But we thank you very much for your time. Thank you, San Ying, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to engage with you, and I've learned so much from you as well. So thanks for the insight and for the great work you do. Honored to be on this platform.
We can't have you say you learned so much and not ask you the question. What's one thing that you learned from this conversation today? What's a takeaway?
Number one, I've learned that Stuart shares my birthday and is extremely special on a lighter note. But I think the tidbits you've dropped, not only on authenticity with experience, but also on the types of leadership lessons and spectrums were just amazing. Sanya, I want to check out the work you've done on this types of authenticity and types of superpowers, because I think that's really special. But more than that, I think digging into some of the themes that we share in terms of humanity, humility, and service, because I think at a time when leadership itself is being questioned, being redefined by some of those around in political governance, the concept of character and integrity and their roots and how critical they are to building trust is also being questioned. And so I think I've been reminded that there are people like both of you who still share these views, that there is a form of authentic leadership rooted in integrity and trust. And so we need more of you and more people thinking that way and actually countercultures that reset what leadership should be and how it should show up in the world. It's not about us, it's about others. So thanks for reaffirming that and for all you do.
Thank you.
Humanity, humility, service. Great way of ending. Thank you, Ndidi. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.